Welcome, friends. We are back again. It's 18 to 49. My name's Brandi. Hanging out with my homegirl. Hey, girl, Alaia. She's just chilling over there, making some things happen. Captain. Hope you enjoyed the episode last week. A special dedication to all of you Mad Men fans. I'm sure it was a lovely time for all of you who really loved that show and loved to talk about all of the precious moments and the ending of such a precious television show that is near and dear to your hearts.
Yeah, we can save a little Mad Men talk for next week. No need to...
No, not even close. Yeah. I'm with you.
But it was a special episode. Thank you for tuning in if you tuned in. And thanks to our guests, CG, Stephanie, and Dee from last week. Good times. Good times.
Thank you so much, guest. Because of you, I did not have to talk about Mad Men. and or listen to all of the Mad Men praise. Even though I have no problem doing it, but it's much better when there are other people who are very enthusiastic about a topic to talk about such things.
Exactly. You know, when you get ready to sing the praises of Game of Thrones and I still haven't gotten around to it yet, you know, you bring on Abe and Liz and whoever you need to bring on and you guys do your thing.
That's exactly right.
Hopefully by then I will have watched Vikings so I can be in on any Vikings conversation. But, you know, Game of Thrones, you guys have at it.
To be quite honest with you, I've not really been caught up on Game of Thrones. I haven't really felt compelled, not that it stinks this season, but I just have not really felt compelled to watch it each week. Like if I miss it on a Sunday, I'm like, oh gosh, let me hurry up and watch it. It's kind of like, okay. And not that it's a mediocre season by any means, but because I think it's actually a pretty good season. I think they're doing a great job of merging all these storylines that were otherwise independent storylines and oftentimes could be a little confusing. So I think they're doing well with that. But it just, I don't know, just something about it. Maybe I'm just not, I don't know, I'm just not the hype about television anymore. I'm not sure what's happening here. But just Game of Thrones just hasn't really tickled my fancy in the way that I've just really been dedicated to watching the screen. Now Vikings, last season, although it's gone already, that
you were into that.
That I had to watch every time.
Do you think, and it totally could be you kind of wavering on television, but do you think that, not that Game of Thrones, like you said, is not good, do you feel like it's run its course, or do you feel like it's just a general TV thing? Because sometimes there have been shows I've liked, and then I just kind of forget they're on because they're not doing as much for me as they used to. Do you think it's like Game of Thrones specific or general TV plus what's going on in your life?
I think that it is just TV in general. So I think I've just become a little bit, what's the overall word I'm looking here for? Well, with TV, I just have been a little disappointed. So I don't have a regular routine because I was watching Blacklist, got to be a little too much for me. You know, trying to give CBS a chance with the Blacklist, and they moved the night and all these other things, and then it started to get a little too extreme, so I stopped watching that. Scandal and How to Get Away with Murder is gone, so I was watching that. But Scandal kind of, I'm a little tired of all that, so I stopped watching that. So I think my regular television weekly regimen was knocked off course. And so because of that, I don't necessarily have a schedule that I follow. And so I'm not as excited about TV. And so I think it has something to do with those shows that I was previously watching that have kind of left me feeling a bit blah. And I kind of stopped watching Blackish, which even though I thought it was a good show, I don't know, it just didn't have me wanting to come back every week to watch.
Yeah, it to me, and I think I expressed that on the show, like it wasn't that I thought the show wasn't funny, but it wasn't compelling enough that I was like, Wednesday night, got to be home for Blackish. You know, like I would try to be home for The Americans. I would try to be home for maybe not SVU this season. That was one I was okay watching later. Parenthood, couldn't miss that.
No, not even close.
No, but like Blackish, good, but if I miss it, I can store up a few on the DVR and bust through it. You know what I mean? It's not like I have to watch right now kind of show.
I think maybe for me too with Game of Thrones is that sometimes the show to me is a little dry, but that's because they're developing storyline, right? It's not going to be action-packed each week. But I think sometimes too, I'd like to see more than one episode in the sitting because maybe the episode has kind of got me a little in its grips and I want to see another one. And then I get a little disappointed because I have to wait another week. So I think probably what I'm doing subconsciously is not that excited about it so that I can sit down and watch like 5 episodes in a row. Because I've missed like 2 episodes. So now when I sit down to watch, I'll be able to like catch the storyline for like 2 good hours. So maybe that's what I'm just doing subconsciously and I don't even know it. My subconscious is a very smart individual. I like to thank my subconscious for all the wonderful work that it's done over the years. You should thank yours too, Alaia.
Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe that's what I'm doing. But honestly, there's nothing really left for me on the televisions anymore.
Well, let's see how you feel in the summer, because we've got Masters of Sex. We've got The Affair.
I'm very excited about that.
We've got Tyrant.
I'm not excited about that. And let me tell you something. I will probably watch that only because I just think it's such a train wreck. And I want to know what
Oh,
they're
yeah.
gonna do
I
next.
can't wait to see where they pick it up from where they left it and
Yeah.
what we saw.
Because it was
I
the
can't
worst.
wait.
It was
And
the
I'll
worst.
be watching The Leftovers, even though it's going to be in another state. I know you won't watch.
No.
But
I really like doing the costume. I don't like watching the show. I'm thinking I might watch that show. Oh, goodness. What is it? The one that has been on and it's been pretty good with Regina Campbell in it. No, not Campbell. Regina, what's her name? King.
American Crime. I thought
American
it was
Crime.
very good.
You watched it?
I did. I did not watch the finale yet.
Okay.
The night the finale came on, there's actually a huge storm in LA. A storm like I have not witnessed.
I saw that.
Yeah, I mean, it was the kind of thing where when they say it's going to rain and it rains, you're like, okay, they said it was going to rain. But for days, they were like, possible chance of drizzle. And then all of a sudden, the skies opened up. It started pouring rain, thunder, lightning, like continuous. And I live downstairs, and the house upstairs has this like big window with like a gorgeous view. So my landlord's like, I'm going to go to the window. And my mom is like, stay away from windows. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know what to do.
You're
But I
supposed
want
to
to
stay away
see.
from windows. No.
I want to see I just want to see like what's happening on street level. So I go upstairs for a minute, and we live on a hill. So you see all this water like rushing down the hill, and there was hail, and you could see like the hail running down the street on like the river of water. And then we're on that site next door where you get on with like just the neighbors in your little neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And so the next morning it was full of like pictures of people whose like decks were covered in hail. Like their decks were white. And I'm like, yeah, how did we get from possible drizzle to this? I mean, it was so loud. So it's crazy. So I kind of like stopped paying attention to American Crime and
Started paying attention to real life storms.
yeah, and saved it. And I haven't gone back to watch it because I was Mad Men focused. So I will finish watching that. But I thought it was a very good show.
I might give it a whirl. I've heard that it was fantastic. I'm thinking that it might renew my hope in television. And so maybe I'll catch it. We've also had torrential downpours here, flooding in Houston, Texas. It's been quite extreme. Yesterday, I knew several people that had to actually sleep in their cars overnight due to the flooding on the highways. Schools were closed. It was really ridiculous. It's really nuts. It's been raining for probably about, off and on, maybe about 2 weeks. But on last night, was it last night? Wait, yesterday was Tuesday. On, Tuesday kind of morning-ish is when it really kind of just went haywire, Monday night kind of thing. So it's been nuts. It's actually about to rain again today. So I'm not really sure what's going to happen with the flooding. But it's a mess. No, it really is a mess. And I think we've had... So far, I think there were 3 like reported deaths, and I'm not sure if there's been anything else. But I mean, you just watch these cars floating away and being submerged in all this water. It's just incredible, and crazy. So anyway, who knows? Maybe I'll come back to TV. Let's see. Did I watch some things? I did. I did watch some things. More so, what has been relevant has been what has happened in pop culture news this week, which has shifted my viewing habits on one of my previously favorite networks. Don't know if it's still my favorite now. One of my previously favorite networks.
Oh, yes.
TLC.
Oh.
If I could talk about that really quickly,
Yes,
because I think it's extremely relevant. So, Alaia mentions every time that, oh my goodness, why do we always record before all the good stuff happens? And I don't know if they're like saving things for Thursdays and just like Thursday's the day when we're going to announce everything that everyone is going to want to talk about. But that seems to be what happens. If you're in the dark here, gonna just shine a little bit of a flashlight on you, which will turn into a spotlight and a full-on halogen fest of lights in the room. We're gonna talk about the Duggars here, 19 Kids and Counting. Now, I know a lot of you out there absolutely despise the Duggars and hate them on a very, very deep level, and which I can understand because they do have some very, I would say, radical sort of ideas, and the way in which they communicate them is not necessarily in a very loving manner. And it could be interesting the way that they express their viewpoints. And it's not something that I share in with them by any means. I just am very fascinated by the entire concept of having 19 children in one home in a small town in Arkansas and raising them in a very interesting way with this homeschooling, which is not necessarily interesting, but the belief structure that they have, as well as this whole like courtship thing, which I think is also very fascinating. This whole courtship, dating, marriage type of thing at a very young age as well, which kind of disturbs me in some sense. I think I talked about that at one point, that some of them, like I guess the youngest was, well, 19. Yeah, 19 years old when she got married. I think when the son was 20, yeah. But I just thought that was super young to be married and to make that type of commitment without having kind of explored. But who am I to really go into all of that? But at any rate, so Josh Duggar, so the way the story started out was that it was allegedly, because nobody had exact, so they have to use the term allegedly, right? Because you cannot necessarily defame someone like that publicly without having factual information. So allegedly, Joshua Duggar had molested 5 girls. And they weren't really necessarily saying who the 5 girls were initially. So all of this starts to unravel, right? And as they get more information, they're publishing more and more and more and more information. So it was, the first was allegedly he molested 5 girls in his teen years. And the family kind of covered it up and didn't really disclose the information. Then we learned later, because it's a police report. So OK Magazine, which I guess needs to get an award for like knowing what type of like litigation and legislation type of things they can use to get information, because they use some sort of like Freedom Find Out Information Act or something or other to like go to the go to the Arkansas police to get this police report. So from what I understand, a lot of the police documents were actually like trashed and damaged and like shredded and all this other kind of jazz. But this police report, which they actually filed, so a lot of people don't understand that. So people are thinking that based upon how this timeline was shared, is that this alleged, well, it's not alleged, she molested 4 people or 5 people. And it turns out 4 of them were his sisters and 1 was some other young lady that was a family friend. And so they had this police report, and people are thinking that after the incidents happened, that it was just a year later that they went and reported it to the police. But it was actually 3 years later that they went and reported it to the police. And some are saying that the reason that they went and actually reported it to the police is because they went on Oprah. They were trying to go on Oprah, and some woman who we will call Alice, who they're calling Alice on all these different message boards, she had posted some information regarding the molestation, and had sent a note to the staff, Oprah's peeps, her people, to basically say, don't allow these folks to come on your show. They're not what you think they are, and kind of gave them the lay of the land and what was actually happening. And so Oprah's people went ahead and reported this to like the Child Protective Services and all these other sort of entities that are responsible for abuse. And that is kind of what was the catalyst for them, I think, this is my speculation, for them, I think, going forward to the police and then reporting it. A couple of things that are very interesting about all of this is the simple fact that, so it took them 3 years to go ahead and bring this to light, right? So to report their son. But then also the person that they went to file the report with was an officer that I guess was friends with the family. So according to some of the information I read, he gave Josh a stern talking to and then kind of sent him on his way. And then come to find out, this same officer has been charged with child pornography. And I think he's in prison for like 30 plus years. This is when they went to the officer at first. And then there was also a formal investigation that was launched later. And that's how you get the police report and the investigative report from OK Magazine. So it's a really messy and nasty situation. And it's just not good at all, period. And the simple fact that this family, though, the type of messaging that they choose to use as it relates to the LGBTQ community is very interesting, as they say that, they are destroying the family system, some of the defamatory things they say about them molesting people, and just very strange claims that they make. And then now this is kind of brought to the forefront. And especially the fact that it was kind of, that it goes undisclosed for so many years is what really is also very disturbing. And the manner in which, so this initial statement that they released, or this statement that the family released in response to all of this on Facebook, which I thought was a really interesting means to do it as well. But on Facebook, and I think they did something with People Magazine a little bit later. But on Facebook, Josh Duggar basically, this is the thing that disturbs me the most. He basically goes on to say that he made some mistakes. He made some mistakes in his as a young teenager. And as a young teenager, I acted inappropriately, and for that I'm very sorry. My parents acted quite quickly And we went ahead and got counseling for myself and for those involved. And then the statements from Jim Bob and Michelle Duggar kind of follow that same narrative. But what you come to find out is that they didn't necessarily. So they said they sent him to counseling. We come to find out that they did not send him to counseling. They basically just sent him to a place where he could participate in hard work. I guess the hard work was supposed to kind of correct whatever was going on. So send him to a place to do some hard work and to actually just be under the guidance of one of their family friends. So I'm not really sure if that's actually a proper process to address molestation, but that's what they chose to do. And then they talked it over with the elders at their church, and I'm sure they probably discussed some kind of sort of regimen they could have there as well. But if you look at the ages too of the young folks, the young girls who were in the house, basically Jana, Jill, Jessa, Ginger, and then Johanna, which was 5 years old at the time. So we don't know which of those
Yikes.
5 sisters that were actually molested, but 4 out of 5 of them were molested. And the thing that's
so
yeah, go ahead.
There's 5 sisters in the family. So there's
there's more than 5, but there was 5 sisters. So this happened around the time when he was 14 to 15. I think he went on, from what I can tell. So he was like, this happened over 12 years ago. So he was like saying he was a young teenager, but 14 and 15, you're a teenager, but you're not. I mean, like young teenager to me, I'm thinking like 13, 12, I don't know. Anyway, preteen kind of thing, but I think he's like 14 or 15. And that is around the time when they first started doing some of these specials. So they were on Discovery Channel first, right? They picked them up as like 14 kids and counting or something, or 14, something about a large family and them having 14 kids. And then they every once in a while would come back and do a different special about them as she had more and more children. And then I think it was like 2005 or 2006 when they actually got their own television show. So around about when all these television specials were kind of going on, and before they got their television show, this was going on. So, yeah.
Wow, man.
A couple questions come up for me and a couple thoughts come up for me. It's like, Tia, and I think this is something that you and I discussed, because of course Alaia and I had to discuss this offline, is that TLC, in my estimation, I would think that either they did not disclose this to TLC or they did disclose it to TLC, and TLC is just like, let's just ride this wave until we can, and then when the wheels fall off, we'll just have to cut your show. Or TLC didn't know about it. I'm not sure. I have no idea. I don't know. It's just very telling, like the fact that she would continue to go on, and that she would have, like, because we all make mistakes, right? Totally. Not even sitting here trying to be judgmental and act like I'm this perfect human being. Totally make mistakes. But if you're going to be very adamant about a stance, right? And if you're going to represent this lifestyle and you're on television like this, I think it's very important. It's not anybody's business, right? I mean, what's going on in your family life and all that. But if you're going to be condemning people, LGBT community, if you're going to be condemning people and trying to protect the sanctity of marriage, equality, and all inequalities and all these other things, and trying to protect the marital system and all this, then I think it's important that you got to lay this stuff on the line. And I don't know how you do that. I don't know what you say. But if you are going to have such an adamant stance, I think you must figure out a way to disclose this type of information and not try to keep it hidden. And then when you do release a statement, not to say that it was a mistake and that it could have ruined I stopped it because it could have ruined my life and all these other things. And so I feel very bad for the sisters having to still live in the house with him, because the way in which this...
yeah, totally.
Yeah, the way in which this stuff is described is that it wasn't just like we're young people playing doctor and exploring and all these other kind of things, which, which children do. And they have to have a conversation about that and help them understand their bodies. But when you talk about like a system that is extremely suppressed sexually, I'm not sure what type of conversation their parents have with them. Totally understand the whole abstinence piece, but in that, there's a way to talk about sexuality in a healthy way and to talk about abstinence in a healthy way, and not that it's dangerous and all these other things. But anyway, not to like demonize it. But anywho, the way in which they describe this, and I'm not going to go in extreme detail because it makes my stomach turn and I might vomit on the air, is the fact that he was waiting, like he was preying on these people, right? So not praying, like literally praying for them, but praying like a predator on these young girls. And he was waiting until they were like asleep. And so he would creep in their room while they're asleep and would molest them. And that is just, what? And that happened multiple. So it didn't just happen once, because it wasn't probably, when you think about this incident, it wasn't just once where he's just running in the room and touching everybody and then running out.
I'm sure it was
I'm not trying to make light of it, right? But
No.
this is probably something that happened over time, that he was molesting 4 out of 5 of his sisters. And then there was a family friend that I guess had come over, and he did the same thing. So when you look at that, it's like, this is a pattern, right? And so not that he's some sort of degenerate, hopeless, not that there's any sort of renewal or reform, like he can't be reformed, but what I'm saying is that there's a pattern here. You're doing this more than once. There's a pattern here, and there's something going on, and you really do need to get some help. And then he did it with another young lady that came to their house. And then there was another instance where one of the young people, he was reading to them, he was molesting them while he was reading to them, just all these different things. And so I really feel really bad. Number one, I feel bad for the entire family. They're not a perfect family, nobody is, but that this is brought to light in this way. And then furthermore, for folks to learn that you really didn't necessarily, and it's tough, right? To find out your son is molesting his own sisters, right, is a very hard situation. But then to figure out what to do with that, like, do we report him? The answer is yes, and that's a very tough thing to do. But if you're saying that you believe in these things, you believe in this justice, and you believe in the fact that your actions have consequences, then you got to report this kid. Even if he is your son, you have to report him, and then you get him the help that he needs. But you don't send him away to do hard labor and to hang out with one of your friends who is, I guess, some sort of, I don't know, corrections I don't know what this man was. But then what type of counseling did the girls get? And so now the girls are married. Do their husbands know? I don't know. Are their husbands just now finding out?
Their husbands know now. I mean, it seems like his wife knew.
Yeah, so he disclosed the information to his wife, and she said he told her about it like 2 years before they started dating. They got engaged, and I think they got engaged when he was 19, and they were married when he was like 20 or something. So that means they met around 16, 17, and so he told her then. But that's around the same, like, it wasn't far off from when this happened. So I don't know, man. But of course, folks were calling for TLC to cancel the show. The same day that all this was announced, TLC had a marathon that was running for the Duggars, and of course they pulled that from the schedule. They're still on the website. I don't know how long it takes them to update their website, but the Duggars are still on the website, 19 Kids Accounting, and TLC has removed them from the schedule, but hasn't yet said if the show is canceled kind of indefinitely. You know, that's one of their highest, like, that was one of their highest grossing shows.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
and all that.
Once they started getting into that, like, John and Kate plus 8, they knew where their money was.
Yeah. Well, and then the wedding episodes, right? The 2 wedding episodes of Jill Dillard now and Jessa Seawall were one of their highest viewed episodes, kind of our TV shows. I think, like they said, of all, like a record view. I don't know if it was like of all time, but it was super high and up there as that, in that regard. So, you know, just a sad day for those people. Sad day for the young folks that were involved in that whole thing. And I just hope at this point, my hope is that, and I don't know these people's business, but my hope is that they actually did get proper counseling, the young ladies, and that everybody gets the proper counseling that's needed to help them through this process, because it's just bad. And again, like I said, I'm not out here condemning these people because I'm not perfect by any means, but what I am saying is that there are some bad pieces of this whole thing. And it's interesting, the privilege, right? Because you listen to people who talk about, like, oh, leave him alone. He was just a young boy. He was a young teenager. Young teenagers engage in these types of things all the time. And these types of things happen all the time. And it's like, well, typically young teenagers that engage in this stuff, it's consensual, right?
Yeah.
So it's not about, like, someone coming into their room and violating them in the privacy of their own room and the safety of their own room. But then next, let this have been a young man named Jose, or let it have been a young man named Jerome. And I think we would be having a very different conversation. But Joshua Duggar, in his privilege, he's got the backing of all these different folks that are coming forward. I can't remember who it was.
Mike Huckabee,
who even has some questionable things about one of his children that was...
Does he really?
Yeah, like one of his kids was like, something I read, and I don't know if this is true or not. Everything I'm saying, this is all my speculation and just stuff that I'm piecing together from what I've read. So don't take anything I'm saying as 100% fact and all this. But something about his son actually, like, mutilated some dog and drowned it, and something else, which, you know, number one is, like, if you ever watch anything about serial killers, like, that's one of the number one signs is mutilation and harm towards animals. So yeah, but it's just interesting that a lot of folks are like, please just give him a chance. He did it a long time ago. It's just a nice young man. They're a great family and all this, but let his name be Jerome. Let his name be Jose. We would be having a very different conversation. and we'd want to put him in jail. Not we, but I'm speaking as a whole. Want to be put him in jail very quickly. But that's not the case. And then also, sadly, the statute of limitations on this whole thing is up as well. So you can't. I don't know what they could do. I don't think they could try it. I don't know if they would try it, but I don't think they can, from what I understand. So anyway, it's pretty sad because I had watched 19 Kids and Counting, got caught up on it, and I was really looking forward to the next season. Only because, I'm just kind of fascinated with this large family, and it's not going to be another season.
Probably not.
No. Their websites have been very silent. Nobody's posted anything on Facebook, on their own personal web pages, or Instagram, or Twitter. Jessa Seawall, her father-in-law, actually wrote a blog post relative to this whole thing. A lot of people coming out shooting shots at him, but I think he made some pretty good points that folks were looking for a way to basically discredit them because of what they say, right? Naturally. And this is an opportunity. He talks about there's consequences, and I'm sure they're pained about all of this, but there's repercussions for your actions and blah, 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 blah. There's some things that he says that are kind of extreme in it, too, that are a little like, oh, maybe not. But some of it that he says is actually, I think, on point. But it's the only thing that's been said in over almost a week now about this entire thing. So my other question is, and you can join in on this, is so you look at the family, right? And you've got one son that's gone to college now. And you've got this other son, Josh, who was working for Family's Rights Council or something. And he has since had to resign, right? Because he didn't tell them about this. Which I would think you would say something about this.
You'd think maybe.
So anyway, I would think if you're doing some sort of Family Rights Council, you might want to be like, hey, just a heads up, there's a police report. So if there's a police report and this charge is filed, I think you want to bring that up. But anyway, so he since had to resign from that position, right? And they're living in D.C. because of that position. And then Jill doesn't work, but what's his name? What's his face? Derek actually works at Walmart as an accountant. So that he actually has the job, but Jill doesn't work. And then Jessa doesn't work, but her husband Ben just graduated from community college, and he is working with the father, with Jim Bob. But outside of that, and I think one of them works at a police station. But anyway, outside of that, I'm just thinking about their income. Because they do have a couple businesses, I think, like construction and real estate. But this is the bread and butter. They were on People magazine all the time. They were always giving People magazine the inside track. And I'm not sure what they were grossing per episode, but it had to be a pretty penny. Especially if you think about these wedding episodes and things like that. So, and they've been on TV since 2006, even a little bit before then. So you think about all that, it's like, man, what are they going to do with this $1,000 a week grocery bill? I think somewhere I read that TLC actually, in order to film that episode about their home, they actually paid for a portion of their house. I don't know if that's true or not, but I read that. And then I also read that they write that house off as a church. So something about the taxes, something interesting. But anyway, yeah, I'm just thinking about that from a revenue perspective. They just messed up their money. I know it's not about that, but still.
I know, but yeah.
Yeah. So it's just bad business. Way to go. What am I going to watch on TLC now?
Extreme Cheapskates.
Well, Extreme Cheapskates and 90 Day Fiancé. But, and this is where I'll stop talking about the Duggars unless you had any comments you'd like to add. But I am so glad that I took a little peek at the TLC website. And on this website, I found a new family. And their names are the Willis clan. The Willis clan are a family. You've probably seen them. They were on America's Got Talent.
I never watched America's Got Talent.
Okay. You've probably never seen them. They were on America's Got Talent. There's 12 children, ages 22 to about 5. And they're 2 parents, of course. And they live in Nashville. And they actually have a very heartwarming story. But they're magicians. I'm going to say magicians. They're musicians, and they are wonderful musicians. Here's why I love the show. There's only 3 episodes in, so you haven't missed much if you want to catch it. Why I love the show is they give a storyline, and then they break for the children to sing. It's like a musical. It's like a musical or like a story, like a kind of like, it almost reminds me of like Annie when it's like, let's go out to the movies. So it's like a let's go out to the movies thing that happens before you're watching the show. So like these breaks in the show are them singing these songs. They sang this one song for their mother for her birthday called Mama. It was beautiful. I was like, this family is everything that I need. So of course they do have some beliefs. a belief structure. They were raised, the two parents were raised kind of Baptist, and so very strict Baptist, and they couldn't dance and they couldn't sing and all this. But they said, you know what? We think this singing is good for our young people. We think this dancing is good for them, so we're going to let them sing, dance. One of them's like a very beautiful artist. They wrestle, they work out, they hang out together, they go to shopping. This is an awesome group. They're an awesome group. The oldest son just recently got engaged on the show, but they don't believe in this whole side hug business. You know, they can give some hugs, some kisses, whatever you want to do, but they do believe in abstinence, which, hey, I'm all good for that. I'm all good for that abstinence train. But yeah, just
why not?
Just a wholesome family. I don't know what kind of secrets they may have in their closet. They've already told us a little bit about the fire that burned down their previous home. And they also told us about the father. He's comes from a family of 9. And I think 4 of his siblings died in a very horrible car crash. But that's about all we really know about their background. Like, I don't know. I think the mother was a teacher before, educator. She went to college for education. And that's all I know about them. But I love the show. Love watching them. And I think they're my new favorite family. Family of 14. They're missing 5 children, but that's okay. It's still good quality. They perform at the Grand Ole Opry. Little kids dance around. 5-year-olds dancing. It's precious. So anyway, they're my new favorite show. So that's what I'm going to be watching instead of 19 Kids and Counting. I feel like I can't watch it.
Replacement family. No, yeah. I don't think you should.
I feel like I cannot watch the show because until the Duggars come clean for me, until they give me some more information, until they tell me some things that kind of make me feel better about this whole situation, I can't go back to watching them. I already stopped watching them for a period of time when I heard that the Michelle Duggar went on this like robocall campaign, basically saying all these horrible things about LGBTQ people, which I thought was just terrible. If you don't have to believe in it, but that's not how you try to. If you're trying to turn people away from a certain lifestyle, you certainly don't do it by calling them and saying that they are going to molest people in bathrooms and that they're devils and all these other things, which I'm not sure she said. That's what I didn't get the phone call, so I don't know. That's what I read. But, definitely if you're trying to get someone to make a lifestyle change, that's not how you do it. And so totally against all of that. Wanted to turn away from them from that, but for some reason I just kept being drawn back in. But now, just in standing in solidarity.
Yeah, I kept pretty quiet about that. I was like, she not.
No,
even I heard that part.
Yeah,
I didn't even watch the show.
But standing in solidarity with my brothers and sisters, I like to go on record as apologizing for not turning from the Duggars sooner when they had that extreme campaign. And then around abortion as well. I mean, you can have feelings about it, but it's just so extreme. Like, just the way they go about it, these conservatives, these radical conservatives, the way they go about it, it's like that's not how you get people to do.
I think
changes.
That's the problem with most extremists on all sides. We all know that we have differing views. Most people are kind of moderate-ish, but it feels like the people on the extreme sides of all of these things, like people chaining themselves to trees. I mean, that's less offensive, I would think, than like calling people and trashing people's lifestyle choices. But I don't know why they think that this extreme behavior endears them to anyone or changes anyone's mind about anything. And I guess the opposite side would be people who like vehemently bash people who are religious and conservative. But it's extremists on all sides. Like, just the way they go about things, it's like, give that a little more thought. I don't think many people are swayed this way. You're mostly preaching to the choir here and getting other people who think the way you do just more riled up. Everyone else thinks you look crazy.
Right. And it's like, if you're going to do this from an extremist standpoint, then make sure the arguments that you have are actually based upon fact and that they actually make some sort of sense from a reasoning standpoint. The fact that, like even here in Houston with some of the things that they were trying to do from some of the bathroom perspectives, it's like, oh, they're going to be men walking around the women's bathrooms. And it's like, really? The men are going to touch your children. It's like, what do you mean? Because, of course, they were trying to do some for the restrooms to allow, of course, transgendered people to go into the restroom. So it's like, they're going to be men walking around the women's. No, it's going to be a woman walking around the bathroom. It's going to be hairy-faced men walking around the bathroom with your young children. No, it's not. No, that's not what it's going to be at all. And just the sort of narrative that people use, and it's just ridiculous. It's unfounded. It's ridiculous. And let's have a better argument if you're going to argue something. Let's make it actually something that's factual and based upon some sort of reason. But because because these arguments are ridiculous, there's no reason, right? I mean, there's really no factual and or good reasoning that they can have. It's just ridiculous. But anyway, the fact that he was a part of all that, it just, of course, now he looks like a huge hypocrite, right? And so, yeah. Anyway, I mean, that's the biggest news that has, I think, kind of came out here recently. And yeah, so now I'm going to watch another show on TLC, The Willis Family. If anyone would like to join me in watching that, please do. I think it's lovely. If you want to chat with me about it, I'll be available after the show. You can see me in the corner. We can talk about The Willis Family because I think they're really wonderful and they sing songs. So that's all from me from the TV perspective. I watched some other things. I watched your Mad Men business, you know.
Mm-hmm. We'll talk about that later.
We'll talk about that another time. Watch all those episodes, though, that you listed. Mm-hmm. Alaia's very interesting, everyone, in case you don't know her offline. She sent a very thorough email. Just a little backstory.
Yeah,
I won't talk about it much.
Cool.
Okay. So just a little backstory. We've had this ongoing thing about Mad Men. Okay. Me supposed to watch the whole series. Okay. Me didn't. And so Alaia says, okay, listen, let me just give you a couple episodes you guys can watch so you can actually have an appreciation for the show. Because after season 1, or most of season 1, I did not have an appreciation. But after her list of television, of shows that she wanted us to watch in different seasons, I actually do have an appreciation for the show. And I am slightly intrigued. What I did tell her is that season 4, I can cope with. Season 1, it just was way too much for me. But season 4, I can cope with. It still is a little much, but it's not as much for me. And I think I can deal with it. But it's still a very kind of depressing show. I mean, let's not put that aside.
No. It's not. I can't even think of a happy show. That's why I'm stumbling. I don't watch happy shows.
Yeah.
I'm like, what's a good show with like a happy ending? But I was going to say what was interesting, and again, we'll talk about Mad Men specifically more later, but just in general, I remember when I'd shared the list and we were texting with Brian, Shay, and Abe over the holiday weekend, I was hanging out with my BFF and who has watched Mad Men and likes it. Like, she likes it a lot, but she's not like super hardcore like me. Most people are not, in the general population are not. We were both agreeing, like, season 1, like, it is definitely not the best season. And yes, I can see why you, Brian, whoever else are kind of turned off by some of the things. But it was an interesting reminder for us that so many shows in general didn't have like the strongest of beginnings or first seasons or whatever. Like Mad Men had 13 episodes. Most network shows have almost twice as much. And tying into the other show I've been watching is X-Files, which I've been watching a little too quickly. I'm already to season 2, and it's not June, so I had to stop myself.
Oh, see, you were worried. You thought you weren't going to be able to do it.
Oh, yeah. I don't know why I didn't have faith in myself. And so, but, you know, I mentioned to someone in the group who was like, oh, I feel like I'm so behind. I'm like, no. Like, get started. It's all good. And I reminded her, I'm like, season 1 is not the best, so it'll be hard to get through. And then, you know, you'll get over it. But like watching season 1 of the X-Files, it's super cheesy. Like the technology is just so bad because it's like 93, 94. I mean, it just looks like the most low budget, like side channel TV show. And that's kind of what it was then. I mean, back then, Fox didn't have a whole lot outside of The Simpsons. So it wasn't like a top network at the time. And then X-Files like grew in quality, but I think going back and watching season 1, it just feels like a completely different time. And I guess it was over 20 years ago, so it is a completely different time. But just the technology and some of the, like the acting and some of the stories, just the cheesiness, like when these killer bugs that are kind of like fireflies come out of the sky, like it just looks so terrible. But then you're like, oh my God, there's so many magic moments later, though. And so many characters, kind of like Mad Men, so many things seeds that get planted in season 1 come back later. So there are a lot of shows out there, I think, that it's a bumpy ride at first. But if you manage to stick through it, you hope it gets better. And I know I've said it a million times on this show, but Weeds was like the opposite. It was great in the beginning. And so it got a lot of people hooked for years, and then it just tanked and was disappointing. But I think for the most part, a lot of shows are rough. And with networks especially, they usually sell a pilot and make a couple other episodes. And then if they get picked up, that's when they shoot more. But a lot of cable shows, I think the term is like straight to series or something. Mm-hmm. They'll just pick it up for a whole season. So it's not like they're getting any feedback to change what's going on. It's kind of like, all right, we got the season, we're committed to it. Like I think Halt and Catch Fire, this show that's gonna start this week that Abe and I watched. It's season 2. I don't know. I feel like if it hadn't gone straight to series, maybe they would have changed some things. Like, it's an okay show. It could be better. But if they've shot the whole season before we've seen it, then who knows? But like when you get a network show like Scandal or Grey's Anatomy, and I just know this like because I follow some of the actors on Twitter and stuff, you'll see them like sharing pictures and tweeting and stuff from set. Like they're still shooting the current season
Right.
when it's airing, and that's usually not the case for cable. So I don't know. Sometimes with the cable shows, you have to give it a shot. And sometimes it works out, and sometimes it doesn't. Like, I don't really know if I'll watch *Halt and Catch Fire*. Abe may have to come back on and give us an update.
I can't. What was that show about? Was that about Silicon Valley? Or was that something?
Yeah,
else?
it was like computers. Yeah, in the 80s.
Mm-hmm. I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
Yeah, so the only shows I watched were Mad Men, X-Files, because I had to, of course, the episodes I told you guys to watch. As soon as I sent the list, I got anxiety, and I was like, oh, crap, I gotta watch these. I gotta watch these and make sure that I got it right. I think I might have done that before I sent the list, or did I send a revised list with the bonus episode?
No, you had the bonuses in there. Well,
Okay.
you went back, so you sent us the list, and then you went back and said, just to confirm, I watched all of these, the list is good.
Okay, yeah.
But the only one I didn't watch was the one that you... So I watched all the ones... Well, wait. I didn't watch all of them yet. But I watched the ones that you said were on your top... Like your top list. And the one that you said, I watched this one because it's not as depressing, but it's not really one of my favorites. I was like, I'm not going to watch it then. So I just watched the ones that you said were your favorites. And so watching the season... Just very quickly. Watching the season 1 finale made me want to go back and find out what happened in the middle of the season. So I watched maybe like 2 other episodes that gave me enough information so I could move forward.
Yeah.
But yeah, I ended up liking season 4. 4 and 5, I think I like a lot better than what happened.
Did you watch some of 5?
Didn't you give us some from 5? I feel like you did. I think I watched some of season 5.
I made 2 separate lists. I was kind of like, here's what you should watch. And then I was like...
the bottom one you gave
us.
The
bottom one, yeah.
Season 5, I think, was in the bottom one.
Yes, it was.
So yeah, I watched some of that too. But
okay, yeah. I think it continues to get strong, and it kind of changes tone. But anyway, so I watched those shows. I watched the finale of SVU, and I just... Nick Amaro is gone now. I kind of liked him, but they weren't giving him a whole lot to do. You could kind of tell this was maybe going to happen because he had some injury, and he was gone, and he was on probation. And I'm wondering if they didn't feel like the character was strong, or if Danny Pino had like other things he wanted to move on to. But I felt like he was attractive. He's obviously no Stabler, but Liv has already had a Stabler in her life. And they even kind of address it at the end. Like when he leaves, he's like, I know I'm not the partner for you that your last partner was. And she was like, she's like, no, you were not. She's like, that was great. And she's like, whatever that was, like, I grew much more in my partnership with you. And I'm like, I have to watch that scene again because it's very interesting. But yeah, so now he's gone. So she and Ice Cube are the only originals. And technically he's not original because he came season 2, but you know what I mean? Like around a long time. Then there's like the new scrappy guy that came this season, the new blonde, Rafael Barba, who is like, I live for him. He's my favorite DA. He's just so...
You love him the most.
Yeah, he's so saucy. I love him. Love to see what he's wearing.
Slick back hair. I feel like you like him because he reminds you of Don Draper. Seriously.
I don't think so, but who knows? He's just...
I feel like it is because he's got that slick back hair like Don Draper. Don Draper is always... Let me tell you the one thing, though. Don Draper is very attractive.
Oh, yeah, he is.
But the only thing I can't get over is that hairy chest. That hairy chest with the... I like a hairy chest.
Hey, they kept it natural.
But his hairy chest, like the way that it goes, is like it forms a T. And so it's a little much for me. But
could you imagine if they put his top half with Michael Fassbender's bottom half? Like what that would do to you?
Like I say, I like a little body here, okay, here and there. But something about that was just was so straight and black. It's just something about it. It's like, this is so straight and black. And it was like long, too. I was like, what is it? And it was in the shape of a T. It reminded Robin Williams had body hair like that. If you ever watch Mrs. Doubtfire, Robin Williams' body hair was like that. And I was like, what is... Oh, why is it in the shape of T? If it was just I don't know. I mean, it's something about it. It just looked like a T. It's not disgusting. It just was kind of like, oh, okay, well...
I don't think that's why I love Barba, but who knows?
You like that hair.
Just my feeling with Liv and this whole baby thing is, I love Mariska Hargitay. I wish I knew her in real life. Like, I want to be BFFs with her. And I have always loved Olivia Benson on the show. I still do. And I'm sure she's a lovely mother. And I've seen pictures of her with her children, and they just seem to be like the happiest little family on the block. Mm-hmm. But there's something about her when she's with the kid on this show that the acting seems so forced, and I don't like it. And it's tough because I think we were all rooting for Liv. Like, if you're a super fan, you know, you're rooting for Liv to like find love or have a baby or like have these things that she wants outside of work, because we've seen her failed relationships and things like that. So you're like excited when she gets a baby. But then like when I see her with the baby, it's like too much. And it's turned into like a working mother drama. You know, like Noah's in danger, he's sick, or Noah's in danger, Noah's in danger, he may not get adopted. Or there was a story recently where their kids were getting like the measles or something because people weren't vaccinating their kids. Mm-hmm. So then there was a scare because she took Noah to the doctor and some kid with measles was in, you know, the waiting room. And now it's become like this working mother drama. And I'm like, I'm not into that. I don't know. So we'll see where the next season goes, but there is no more Nick Amaro. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I'll still watch.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what I watched in TV. And there were lots of other pop culture-y things that happened this week. It's all on our Facebook page. I think the one thing that's worth mentioning is Beyonce Always on Beat.
Beyonce Always on Beat.
Did you make your own jingle for it?
That was it right there.
Does she have a routine that would actually be on beat to that?
Beyonce Always on Beat. Yeah, that was it right there.
So that was like a funny thing where people started pulling together all these like Vines and Instagram videos and various things where Beyonce was dancing on beat to all kinds of random songs, 90s hits, including
gospel
Tootsie
songs.
Roll. I think the gospel songs were some of my favorite.
Those were hilarious.
They had her doing it to like one of Michelle Williams' songs. And then there was like another one that I heard with like a choir or something. And I'm just like, this is funny to me. I'm not even a Beyonce fan, and I can still enjoy because it's like, it's just great.
I spent an hour watching it.
I did not spend that long.
I watched an hour. Not an hour watching it. It was great. Yeah.
It was good times.
Yeah.
Good times, good times.
Yeah.
And everything else is on our fan page or on the interwebs. Olsen twins not going to be on Fuller House.
Why not? Of course.
Why did people think that they would be?
Right.
Bat Kid movie's coming out. I will probably watch that because that was like the sweetest little story where the city of San Francisco came together for Mr. Bat Kid.
Oh, really?
Yes. Watch the trailer. It's heartwarming. And there's going to be a little movie. Mindy Kaling and BJ Novak, like up there with my favorite celebrity BFFs. They are going to be writing a book or doing a movie or something about their weird relationship. And I can't wait to read it. And neither can Erica Hines. Shout out to Erica. Letterman is over. I don't think either one of us watches Letterman, so who cares?
No, don't care at all.
Lenny Kravitz turned 51. He's still beautiful.
He is amazing.
Gorgeous. And Ian Van Zant thinks that she's going to fix Baltimore. So next week, when we have a show, we can see if Baltimore is just a whole new place. But I really don't feel like that deserves a whole lot of breath because it just seems like a joke to me.
Yeah.
But, you know, whatevs.
You're not going to fix Baltimore with a bunch of beloveds.
Yeah. So that is a lightning speed pop culture roundup.
That's all we talked about today. Pop culture popcorn.
Yeah. Glad to have Brandi back this week.
Hello.
And we'll be back next week. So you can find us online on our site that is newly unhacked because it was hacked and made me sad. 18to49podcast.com.
We'll find you, hackers.
18to49podcast.com. You can email us 18to49podcast@gmail.com. Facebook 18to49, and we are on the Twitters at 18to49 podcast. And that's it for this week.
Farewell, friends.